Constantly shifting through the time-space continuum, Metron's three disciples observe the universe from the Mobius Couch.
With a taste of your lips, I'm on a ride. You're toxic, I'm slipping under. With a taste of a poisoned paradise, I'm addicted to you. Don't you know that you're welcome to the Mobius Couch? An interdimensional time space vehicle for which your three hosts survey the world of comics, comic books, comic book movies, and TV series. I'm Alessandro, one of your three hosts on the Mobius Couch. And as usual, I'm joined by Joe.
Oh, hey, Al. How's it going?
Good, but I can't answer that yet because I'm also joined by Patrick.
Hey, Al. Hey, Joe. Hey, everyone.
Oh, hey, Patty. Hey, Patty.
Everybody. Okay, now that we're all
Hey, Patty.
introduced, I can answer Joe's question. I'm doing okay.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good.
How's everyone else doing? Are
So,
you ready to talk comics?
I'm ready to talk Disney Plus Hawkeye.
Let's say show, because I think Disney's known for being litigious and suing for their IP. Also, I did steal the Hawkeye TV series NFT from the Disney Vault. So
That's true.
they might come after us for that.
By the way, did you find anybody to buy that yet? I've got some buyers that might be interested.
I don't want this to go on because I don't want to make any more jokes about NFTs. But without further ado, let's talk about this TV show from an unnamed streaming platform. General impressions. I thought, it was fun. It was fun. I'm like a B- on it. It was fun, but that's about it.
Huh. B-. That's not bad. What did you think about 10 years in the fucking making of finally giving Hawkeye some due in this Marvel Cinematic Universe?
He's had due already. He was somehow in the Avengers, even though he does nothing.
Oh, he didn't do anything in that. He was barely in Thor for 2 seconds. Avengers, he's a bad guy the whole time because he gets touched by Loki. And then every time after that, it's just like they just push him off to the side. I guess when they show his family in Age of Ultron, and you're kind of like, oh, okay.
No, I mean, I wasn't thrilled to hear about the Hawkeye series when they announced it. Didn't really care to see anything more about Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye. But I actually overall enjoyed this TV show, but I think it's for the same reason why I enjoyed the Hawkeye comic it's based on, because of Kate Bishop. Is it Florence Pugh?
Yeah. Oh yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Pug, Pug, Poog, or is it like a Dutch Van Gogh, like a Poog, like a Pugh?
I think it's Pugh.
What sort of Florence are we talking about? Do we know?
I'm not sure.
I'm going to Wikipedia sometimes gives you a pronunciation guide. Wow, you guys will not believe this. It's Florence Pugh. I would not have guessed that. It is Florence Pugh.
Yeah, so I mean, back to Joe's question about, I didn't want to see this show. I didn't care to see Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye explored. Mm-hmm. But overall, I did enjoy where they went with his character. And yeah, I really loved Hailee Steinfeld's Kate Bishop. I loved, my favorite part of the entire show is just her dynamic with the new Black Widow, played by Florence Pugh. Joe, what was your overall take?
So in my memory, the Hawkeye book was better than I remembered when we reread it. So that being said, I watched the show going I really wish they had gone more from the book and less of inserting Echo, because I feel like that was just meant to drag in, what's his name? Kingpin. But as a whole, I really liked it. I really liked where they took Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner himself, with the hearing aid, and he's a little beaten up from after all this time being a normal dude trying to keep up with them. It kind of put a realistic spin on that. How the fuck is he doing this kind of thing?
Yeah.
And even to the point where starting to catch up with him, and I like that. Kate Bishop crushed it. She did a great job, I thought. And then bringing her character to life really made the show for me. So, I mean, I don't know. More than a B- in Al's opinion. I mean, I think, I don't know, A-. I liked it.
So going back to the comic, I mean, some of the comic parts, they basically lifted straight from some of the action set pieces and the events are right from the comic. And they did manage to do the Brooklyn/Manhattan Bridge with somehow moving traffic and being able to have a car chase on it.
Yeah.
Which in real life would just be impossible.
I'd like to see a realistic car chase in New York one time with just a monster truck with a big cow moving fin on the front of it, shoving cars out of the way so that they could actually drive fast to the city.
Or even without that, just two cars 8 cars apart looking at each other and neither one moving, and the people should I get out and walk over? Should I stay here? What? I think that would be a pretty good car chase too. But yeah, so how should we tackle going about the overall like arc
Why don't we
of the
talk about
series.
random characters
Sure. So
and just
why
kind of
don't
like
do we
touch
want to
on them
start?
throughout the
Let's
series?
start with Kate Bishop. Let's start with like a strong one.
Sure, we'll start on the strong one. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's great. So she was great in the comic, and Hailee Steinfeld, right,
Correct.
is
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
actress. She did great as her in
I love the
the
opening
show.
scene with her as a little girl, shows a little backstory with her and her dad, and then like kind of makes you care about him for at least a second before he's dead. But the key is that she sees the Battle of New York and like basically just witnesses Hawkeye jumping off the building and doing shit. And she's like, holy shit, if he can do that, I can do that. And that was kind of a neat impetus to her character. Because I mean, like, there's just not realistically, there hasn't been a ton of time in the MCU. So like having legacy characters as like sidekicks doesn't make a lot of sense. Time is kind of warped in comic books, and Hawkeye's been around forever, even though he's still 30, kind of thing.
He
But
is
then Kate
not
Bishop's now
30.
18. No, not in the show, in the books. But
Oh,
like,
in the
like,
okay, I see. In the
yeah,
comic,
he's just timelessly, Batman's always 33 or whatever the fuck, he never ages. It's easy to get away with like Robin now is 25 and he's now Nightwing, and you're like, wait, but Batman's still the same age? That doesn't make any sense.
Well,
But like,
unless comic icon writer Frank Miller is writing Batman, in which case he's much older because
yeah,
Frank Miller's a
all
genius.
depends.
He's definitely not a hack who's written the same story since 1980 18 times.
So talking about characters is like a random thing to say, but Vera Farmiga, she plays Kate Bishop's mom. I have never seen her play a trustworthy character.
Yeah, you're kind of right. I don't know if you saw, but like one of her earlier big movies was Up in the Air with George Clooney, but she kind of had a turn where she was not trustworthy in that too. So you're right.
Like she's kind of the protagonist hero in Godzilla, but at the same time, she's
kind of not though. She's sort of the villain.
yeah, isn't she the villain? She did some shady.
Wait, which Godzilla? Was she in the second one? She was in the
Whatever one
second
she's in,
right?
bro.
Speaking of Godzilla, tangent. Did you know that they just signed a deal in Japan? They're going to make an MCU style combined universe of Godzilla, Ultraman, Kamen Rider, and Neon Genesis Evangelion.
What?
Have you heard about this? I'm not making this up. Yeah. Yes. Like this week. It is insane. It is pure insanity.
Kind of awesome.
But they're going to combine it with Godzilla and then like Power Ranger style Kamen Rider Ultraman show. It's all going to be
it makes sense to me. If all of those things fought, it would just rip the planet in half.
Back to Hawkeye. Hawkeye, the television show.
The opening sequence, the title sequence, is obviously taken from Matt Fraction and David Aja's run on Hawkeye.
100%.
And then, but I like how they use it to show the training, like show Kate, like first she's getting a little participation medal in like gymnastics or something, but then it shows her getting a gold medal in like the Olympic style kind of thing, or like holding a big trophy. Then she's jumping off a building and you're like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. Like it's really quick, like little flashes of animated versions of her like training for like the last 10 years of her life, and then they lay that backstory every single time you watch the show because that plays every time. But then the first episode really shows like a jillion trophies all over her room, and she's just been like fucking doing like fencing and fighting and shooting and like gymnastics and all this shit, like making it actually plausible that a 22-year-old could do what she's doing in the show. And I kind of enjoyed just that aspect of it. It's very they do it subtly. They don't like smash you over the face with it. They're just like, hey, she's been doing shit. You can't just like wake up tomorrow and start being an Olympic athlete and jumping off buildings in a costume.
Going back to your first point about the battle for New York and that scene.
Yeah.
I mean, today's episode of We're How Old, that was like more than 10 years ago that movie came out and that happened. And that children, when that happened, are now adults, even in that fictional universe, is horrifying. It is horrifying.
Well, there was also the blink. I mean, like in the universe, there's also the blink or the snap or whatever you want to call it. She didn't snap or whatever, so she was alive that whole time, if I'm not mistaken.
It still doesn't change the fact, Joe, that we are old men, and that movie came out
that's
years
true.
ago.
Yeah, not disputing that at all. But there's the part where they have that fight where they're going through like all the rooms in that one building. It's towards the end. It's when Hawkeye's out on the tree. she's like trying her hardest, and Yelena basically says something like, I have to, you're actually making me try. Like, would you stop? Like, and she does make that comment, like, I'm actually having to try to fight you, which is kind of like, which is like a very high compliment. And she's like, would you stop making me like you so much or something like that? And I like their little backs and forth, like really funny. Their chemistry was really good, but also
Yeah, I
like you
thought
can
their
tell that Yelena
relationship
could have
was
kicked her ass at like at any moment.
Yeah,
if she really
yeah,
wanted
but
to.
their back and forth was super endearing and charming.
I love their relationship way more than her relationship with Clint, which was also very touching and
Yeah.
I do like that you mentioned her relationship with Clint, because one thing I way preferred about the show, so when we talked about the comic, we kind of alluded to that weird sort of
It's a
will they
little
won't
creepy.
they, she seems
Yeah.
attracted to him and it's kind of creepy relationship in the comic. And thankfully in the show, well, I mean in the show he's also
But again,
older
it's that
anyway, but
agelessness of the character in the comic. Like he's 33 still, and she, you know what I mean? Like it's just like if it was real life, like it is in this show, Jeremy Renner is obviously older and has a wife and children. And it's like no, like there's none of that. So I agree. I like that better. In the show, too.
but I do prefer that it's just like completely absent and there's no, I mean, it's just no
Yeah.
creepy undertones
Yeah,
of
if
any
anything, he's
possible
like
kind.
an older brother or a
Or
father figure
father,
to
yeah,
her, and
basically a
brings
father
her
figure.
home at the end for Christmas and stuff.
Well, that's the least he can do. He put her mom in jail, the piece of shit. I mean, least he can do is offer a home for
She put
Christmas.
her mom in jail.
Whatever. The mom's in jail. Yeah, thank you for bringing me home for Christmas. That's
But I will say this version of Hawkeye in this TV show with Jeremy Renner is probably the most likable version of him. I kind of feel like I shit a lot on Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye in the last episode, but after watching this show, this was my favorite version of that character.
Yeah, but I mean, like again, you haven't seen this aspect of him, Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye, until the show. Your opinion was valid until the show. He hasn't had time to explore that character like at all in any of the movies, like almost ever. Oh, what were you going to say? Sorry, can I cut you
yeah,
off?
if you compare him to the last movie he was in, which is not Infinity War, Endgame was the second Infinity War movie. He's got a ridiculous mohawk and he's a Japanese assassin and then he does a weird duel with Natasha to try to die. Like it's an insane arc and character. So this is a much better representation of like here's an old
Yeah.
man, here's a human who struggles to keep up with super gods.
Yeah.
And this is his sunset, like kind of we're getting towards the sunset and easing
They
him out
even
of the
bring
way.
they even bring up that dumb fight with Natasha with the soul gem and make it more interesting. You know, like he's basically got PTSD from it. Like his best friend in the entire world died in that moment. Like it's so much more heartfelt and like gut wrenching, knowing that he was feels super guilty for it and like he should have died or whatever, you know, like kind of thing. And it's just like amazing. They take that moment, which wasn't bad in Endgame. It was good in Endgame.
It was
but
bad.
like they take that moment and
It was bad.
expand on his feelings from it. It wasn't that. Well, the
was
fighting
bad.
to get to the edge of the cliff.
It was
stupid.
ridiculous. I mean, it was insane and
Okay.
ridiculous. But it was bad.
Anyway, what do you guys think about the swordsman not being a villain in any way, shape, or form, and her stepfather, and they're setting him up as a villain the whole time, and it's so like funny, and he's charming as shit, and I fucking love the guy that played him.
He was
did a
great.
job.
He was really great.
And then like so in the comics, the swordsman helps train Hawkeye like when he was younger to like be Hawkeye. I was just kind of like, do they not know each other? I don't understand. Like, why are they like acting like? And I was like, oh, maybe they're, you know, it's MCU, everything's different. Like maybe they're just introducing him now or whatever. He wasn't even a suit. Like they set him up from the very beginning with like the weird underground auction for weapons and shit, and then like all the swords in her mom's apartment and like all this stuff, and like the threatening cliffhanger ending where they're in Clint are in the mom's apartment and then the swords like to Hawkeye's throat and they're like, oh shit, you know, like kind of thing. And just never happens. It's so funny. And in the end, he's just helping them fight. And you're just like, I don't really know where you're going with this character, but I kind of like him.
Did Matt Fraction and David Aja even get any credits on the show?
Oh no, yeah, that's a big deal. Like David Aja even wrote something, like I think tweeted about it when the show was coming out, was just like, hey, thanks for totally stealing my aesthetic.
Because the credits are completely stylistically lifted.
Oh,
from
yeah.
that
Oh,
run.
100%. 100%.
Just lifted straight off. Are you sure?
I guess
didn't?
Disney's
No.
just like, do you own purple and white? It's upsetting because it just comes in. First of all, I don't know how many gajillions of dollars Disney has, but surely you could have thrown some money at the artist to be like, hey, thanks for your inspiration for the show we're making, built off the backs of what you guys made.
Yeah.
It's one more like little note in the long list of artists that have been fucked over by like DC and Marvel, like not like getting their due or getting money for characters they created or like just getting screwed over like left and right over the years. It's fucking
Well,
gross.
I
It's
looked it
like,
up online. They do get special
why?
thanks in the credits.
Oh, they added a special thanks at the end.
Yeah, so at the end they say special thanks, David Aha, Matt Fraction, etc., etc. Brian Michael Bendis, among others. Joe Quesada.
It is. It's wild.
It's not a big deal. Like what could possibly be what you would pay a storyboarder or something for a show like this? Like not that much. Just fucking throw them a salary and be like, "Hey, thanks." Again, just throw them on there as consultants, and then they consulted by giving you a fucking book that was amazing, and then you took from it. So,
But then you'd have to just pay everyone from whom you've stolen work, Joe, and that's just not how Hollywood works.
it's a fair
What
point.
world would it be if big studios just had to pay
Where does
everyone
it stop?
what they
I don't
stole?
know.
Where does it stop?
Guess what? It stops before you run out of money because you have all of it. So it's not a big deal.
Well, that's what it makes you wonder if it's, I don't know, is it about the money or is it just the fact that these executive or whoever's making this universe? I don't know. Kevin Feige doesn't seem like an asshole though, but like why?
Oh, I'm sure he's an asshole. 100% has to be an asshole.
He comes off as he comes off as pretty knowledgeable, and B, I don't know, he comes off as a
You can't be that successful and that rich and not be a sociopath, Patrick. That's just not human nature. The dude, I'm sure the dude's an asshole. He probably makes an unpaid intern get him pellet ice from 3 buildings over and mix it with light cherry Dr. Pepper from another building because that's the only thing he can drink during storyboard meeting.
I mean, that sounds
or
right
a
to me.
caffeine-free Diet Coke.
I mean, one of the two.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not at all referencing a real big name producer that we've heard stories about, but I'm just telling you that Feige dude is definitely an asshole.
Yeah,
I
I mean, he
guarantee.
must be because he must have. I feel like if he said, "Hey, we should throw this guy some money because this show's so successful because of the foundation they laid," but he doesn't. And I feel like if he did, Disney would be like, "Well, if Kevin Feige's saying it, we don't want to piss off Kevin."
What do you guys think about Tracksuit Mafia?
I didn't like them in the comic, didn't like them in the show.
I was upset they didn't say bro, and they didn't say bro enough nearly for me.
They could have said bro less as far as I'm concerned. I'm not a fan
They
of the
should have
Tracksuit
said bro
Mafia
like at
saying
least
bro.
100,000 more times. Also, I didn't like how they weren't all exactly the same. Like I just wanted them to be all the same. There was too much variation in their tracksuits.
I will say that this construction of the evil gang was nonsensical. I mean, I didn't like the original that much anyway, but at least it's like, okay, Eastern European mob, kind of get it. In this one, it was a weird milieu of like Latinx mafia. I guess we have to, I don't know anyway. Latinx mafia, and some of them are Russian, but then the kingpin's in charge. It was kind of like a mess of what is this group? I'm also not clear on what they wanted, like why they were evil to begin with. They didn't.
I think the kingpin was kind of forced into this.
I agree.
I thought of them as like a low-level street gang that he's just like he owns that turf. Like he's not in charge.
But it was still weird. And this is also one of those shows.
It just seemed like a shitty gang that fed up money, like up the chain to eventually gets to Kingpin at some point.
But it was still a weird thing. And it's one of those shows where like in episode 5 or whatever, certain things happen and you just realize I have no idea what is going, like what do the bad people want? It's sort of like a lot of action and motion and colors and movement around not actually a narrative going around. There's no actual like unified conflict pulling these people forward. It's just like, I guess nominally it was, they wanted his costume, or like one of the bad people didn't like Ronan. And so all of them did. And none of it made sense. None of it made sense.
Well, for whatever reason, they brought in Echo and made her a criminal, which was interesting. But like, they brought in Echo and like made her in charge of the tracksuit mob, and subsequently, like she had been, Wilson Fisk is a large figure in her backstory in life from the Daredevil comics. So like that made the natural transition to Kingpin. But again, I don't really know why they're shoehorning her or him into this. Also, I don't understand why she earned her own series out of this show, because I didn't like watch the show and go like, Echo is fucking crushing it. Woo! I was just like, okay, Echo's here. Weird, kind of thing. but I guess they're gonna give her her own show now.
She's
But
yeah,
at any
she's
rate,
a character. And I think the actress,
she's
is
a character.
actually deaf in real life, I
Yeah, I think
believe.
she is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Al, you'd mentioned like, did she have like a missing leg? Was it a leg
Yeah,
she's
she's
missing?
missing.
Yeah.
I think she's missing a leg, yeah.
But she was like, you were like, does she have a missing leg in the books? And I was like, no, I don't think so, because you were like an episode ahead of me or whatever, and so I didn't see it yet. And I was like, no, I don't think so. And then I was like, I just assumed, based on your question, that the actress was missing a leg or something. But clearly, they just cast her and then made that part of her character.
Yeah, I just asked that because I didn't remember if in the comics she
Yeah, I mean,
also
you know,
was missing a limb. But I did anyway. I just felt that the overall plot was just disjointed and just felt like a lot of like, look at this, whoa, action, this is going on, and then around like a
it
bunch
was
of stuff
very
that didn't.
loose to get them all to be fighting all at the same time at the end.
Yeah, well, to use like an appropriate motif, it just didn't feel like there was an actual arrow of plot, like a
Yeah.
real narrative.
Yeah, I agree with you. Plus one, all that. Like the overall story and plot didn't make a whole lot of sense, but I do think the heart of the show is the character development and the interactions between the specific characters.
And them trying to unravel what's going on
Yeah.
is like the whole, and having such a loosely, I don't know, basically a shitty gang trying to off them the whole time kind of made it better because it gave them more time to banter and figure out their characters and discuss things and just grow as characters, as opposed to like if it had an intelligent villain where Kingpin was there the whole time, probably would have ended in a bloodbath pretty fast in like episode 2. But like because these fumbling idiots are their like antagonists, like it made it a little more understandable that they're like fucking their way around and like barely staying ahead of
Yeah.
everything.
Also, the trick arrows were so the other Avengers movies don't really have any trick arrows, right? I feel like it was kind of
They
just
do.
in this
He like even in
series that,
Avengers 1, he like puts his thing in the back and it like
was a
spins around
rope.
at the bottom and like
Was that the rope? He only ever used like the rope.
like
arrow,
it's
right?
like turns to like an exploding arrow or something. I think the idea is that over the movies he gets more and more like different trick arrows, and
I don't know.
he,
I
whether
guess
he
that's
uses
how
them or
little
not, who knows?
attention I pay to Hawkeye in those movies. But anyway, it was kind of fun to see crazy trick arrows.
Oh, I
and-
fucking
and
love.
that
I
kind of
mean,
stuff in this one.
by the way, I literally wrote for like whatever episode that is. I don't know. Oh yeah, it's episode 3 when they're doing the car chase and they're on the bridge and stuff. And he's like, "Shoot this one," and she shoots an arrow like way up in the air, and he like shoots the Pym arrow at it, and it turns huge and like hits
Yeah.
the bridge and rips the car in half. Imagine the fucking. So you have the understanding that Hawkeye doesn't like, especially at the end when they shrink the minivan. Like she's like, "What do we do now?" And he's like, I don't know what happens now." Like, so he doesn't, so he just left a gigantic like 300-foot arrow in the center of a bridge and drove away. I'm like, what are they doing? Chopping down, is it a tree? It's the size of a redwood. Property damage alone, Jesus.
Well, it's fine. There's so little traffic on the Manhattan Bridge anyway.
Oh yeah,
and
no,
was
yeah, it
fine.
wouldn't cause any problems. But I was just like, holy fuck, that's like, what are they doing to that? And it's not like he shot it with another Pym arrow and shrunk it down after that. They just left a giant arrow in the middle of the bridge. Like, all right, interesting. I feel like that would be all over the news. What the fuck is this thing? Helicopters everywhere.
Also, so apropos of nothing, Pizza Dog is in the show.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Lucky?
All about Pizza Dog. He should have gotten his own episode like he had in the comic. is the
Oh
only
yeah,
thing
that
I'll
would have
say.
been great.
How many
Yeah.
people did Kate Bishop kill in this show?
Yeah, she shoots an exploding arrow into the front of the van. It flips like 7 times and crashes into like some other cars. I'm like, those dudes are dead. Like it's not like it showed tracksuit guys coming out of the van going like coughing with smoke in their lungs, going like, bro, what the fuck, bro? You know, like they were dead.
It's just action movie logic, like car chase stuff. Things blow up, people die. You just don't. think
Yes,
about
I
it.
don't know.
No, they're dead. No, you're right. I mean, they are dead. Like I'm not contradicting.
It's just funny that we talk about in the comic how even though Kate shoots those guys in the eyeballs, they're still alive, and they make the point being like they're still alive. They'll be blind. They're still alive. Like they're like
Yeah, she points out multiple times how, because it also paints like a picture of how ridiculously skilled she is, you know, or they both are. You know, her ability to like shoot somebody in the eyeball and you don't kill them, like that's skill, you know. Yeah, I think she's just killing people in the show. I think it's weird when heroes are like, we
Yeah.
can't kill, and you're just like, okay, people are gonna die.
Joe, I've got several Zack Snyder directed DC movies you would love if that's how you view superheroes.
really?
If you like superheroes and body counts, let me tell you.
I mean, fucking Captain America just kicks some guy off the fucking helicarrier in like the first movie? He's just like, like, I mean, come on, like
Captain America
they all
has
kill
murdered people. Yeah, he has.
Iron
murdered people.
Man, first Iron Man movie, he flew to a foreign country and just blasted the shit out of people and just flew away and was like, I'm Iron Man, I'm awesome. Like, they've been doing it since day one in these movies.
Also, it's called the blip, which is weird because it's the snap.
Is it the blip or the
So,
snap?
I've
It's the
always called
blip?
it the snap, and then they changed it to the blip, and I sort of say that and sort of say the snap.
I'd
I've
assume
always
the
said
snap is like the actual act of Thanos snapping people away. No, the blip is the amount of time that they were gone. I think that's the
the time gap. But I also think the snap is kind of what all fans refer to it as. But when we started getting back into the shows and the movies all referred to it as the blip. It was like, I guess it's just the shit we called it out in real life and the shit that they call it.
So I have the answer.
MCU.
You're both
Oh,
wrong.
yeah.
I have the answer. So according to the Marvel Cinematic Universe wiki, the snap is the death and the blip is the resurrection. Neither is the 5-year span between.
that doesn't make sense
Oh.
though, because they reference the blip as if it was during the blip. They make it sound like it was a
Yeah, they say during the blip.
So
Yeah, they
you're
say
saying the
during
Marvel
blip.
Cinematic Universe wiki
Yes.
is wrong. I want to make a larger statement right now. You both said something. I presented a fact from a resource that you just decided not to believe. This is what is wrong with our country right now. I gave you a researched fact from a resource, and you just
Yeah, we
decided
gave you
not
a
to believe
research
that.
from our actual memories from the movies where people refer to it as more than
Okay.
just that moment.
Well, you can both go vote Republican and keep believing whatever you want to believe. I will believe in fact. Let's
All
move
right.
on. What's next?
Did you just say bro joking? Oh, well, we're jumping around a little bit, but how did you feel about back to your point, Alessandro, with this, like, what were the motivations? Clint, his motivation is to get this watch that was at the auction that's been stolen. For some reason, if a villain gets this watch, they'll be able to find the agent that used to own it, and they don't really elaborate onto why that is. But then the twist is Clint's wife, who's played by Linda Cardellini.
What? Spinach
Yeah.
tortellini?
Spinach
No, she was.
tortellini. Linda Cardellini. She's
Anyways, she's been Hawkeye's wife since the first time we meet his family, and it turns out that she is also a SHIELD agent, retired.
which makes a lot of sense
It
actually.
makes sense.
Like, where would they have met? When would his life slow down enough for him to meet somebody and fall in love and become, like
It turns
him
out
being
it
in
didn't,
S.H.I.E.L.D.
Joe.
for
They
X
met
amount
at
of
work.
time.
It's an
Yeah,
office romance.
That makes sense.
I still don't get why that watch. It just anyway, whatever. None of it made sense.
It also explains a little bit more of like why Scarlett Johansson's character, when they go to the farm in Age of Ultron, and she's like, "Hey, how's it going? I love you." Blah blah blah. And you're like, "Oh, okay." I guess it's just because they're friends, and maybe he's brought Black Widow home a few times, but them being friends from before again makes I like that. How the watch would ever reveal who she is, I don't understand. Because when you finally find the end or see the end, and the engraving on the back is like Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., agent number whatever, you're just like, that literally said nothing. Like, what is there another engraving inside of the watch? And the real person is
maybe there's a
Hawkeye's
chip
wife.
hidden in the watch.
And it has
it
a
was
current
a
address.
even if you did, like, your SHIELD, you make a watch that's like a James Bond watch. Why engrave SHIELD on the watch?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
I don't understand why you would go that far.
I like the fact that she was revealed to be a SHIELD agent, because it made sense again with her relation with Natasha, like Joe was saying, but also how she's so relaxed when Clint is talking about the crazy stuff he's dealing with.
Yeah, the reveal was fun, and I liked the reveal, and it adds all this weight to every interaction he's ever had with her over all of the movies, which is a lot, So you're like, oh, interesting. That paints all of that in a different perspective for me. However, what's the big deal with the watch? Like, who cares if someone takes it or has it? Like, I don't get it. Does it have her DNA on it or something?
It was all just, I don't know. It was all kind of a mess. So Echo's, like, friend / cousin, whatever they were, the other guy in the Tracksuit Mafia that was maybe I don't know what relationship they had, but that was supposed to be the clown killer, right? From the comic.
Yeah, not as compelling of a villain in the TV show.
So completely different. Yeah.
Wait, which one is this?
The dude who looked like Jon Snow, that was like Echo's friend or cousin.
Oh, Kazi?
Kazi, yeah. That was the clown killer in the comic.
They really dropped the ball on that. That was bad. He's not good. He doesn't portray that character in any way, shape, or
No,
form.
I mean, they took a sharp right turn on that character. He's just a
Yeah, that's
completely
crazy.
different person.
I mean, I found him, wow, not the same character at all. Like, why? So that's kind of, man, that's so funny. That reminds me of every X-Men movie. I'm like, why did they put that character in there?
Oh yeah.
Like, they just like put this character in and made this mutant power, and it doesn't track with anything from the comics whatsoever. Just don't make it that character. Those
Maybe
movies
that
are
goes
rife
in with
those
what we were
fucking
talking
weird
about
fallacies.
earlier, because if they were too close to the source material, maybe they would have to pay the original creators.
Oh, they would have had to pay
you know,
that fraction. What did you guys feel about the interaction of like, and the weird way that Hawkeye and Kate heavily leaned upon the random LARPers and civilians to help them?
I didn't like the
throughout.
LARPer stuff. That just seemed like
I
a
thought it was kind of
very
weird.
it just seemed like a very almost fourth wall, like, "Hey, nerds, look, nerds are
Mhm.
cool in this universe. Aren't you happy?" When LARPing is really fucked up and it's really I mean, I play D&D, and even I would say that, like, LARPing is weird. So, I don't like that Marvel is trying to, like, give their blessing on LARPing. It's like, "Look, it's mainstream and cool now." Like, you're nerds, and you shouldn't do that.
I didn't have a problem with them
Goddamn.
being LARPers, but there was nothing else to their characters other than the fact they were LARPers.
I mean, the only reason they made them LARPers, I think, is because it gave them a reason to have like costumes by the end. They're like, "Hey, make us costumes." I was just like, you couldn't have just, like, Kate's rich. Like she couldn't have just been like, "Oh, I've been waiting for this forever. I have people sew me superhero costumes every other week because I'm a rich person." Well, they called the one dude that he gets the Ronin costume from, they referred to him as Grills.
Oh, really? I
Grill.
missed that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that like, in the comics,
And I was
the
just like, so once
Grills
again, I was like,
guy is
what?
actually
That's him? And I was like, their friendship's not there. They don't live in the same building. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you make that character? It's so weird and forced. And you could have just made it Bill.
No, but it's like Patrick said, it's just pandering of like, look at these nerds on screen. Aren't you happy that we're representing LARP culture on screen? And that's all it is.
I don't know. It made sense in a way with the Ronin costume and why
I
we
guess
take it, and then of course them getting costumes by the end. But there's so many other ways to have done that, I guess.
How did they? I even forgot. How did the LARPers get the Ronin costume? How did they even have it?
It was in when the tracksuit mob tracks them down to Kate's apartment, it catches on fire and they had to like run out and they can't get to it because the fire's there. So they have to wait for the fire to go out. Hawkeye goes immediately back to get it, but one of the firemen took it.
Oh, and so the LARPer was the fireman.
All the LARPers in the show are like cops or firemen or something.
Oh, right. Yeah, one was I remember now. One was a cop, yeah.
Yeah, one was like a paramedic, I think. I don't know. By the way, that fucking Molotov cocktail scene was one of the best tracksuit mafia scenes, I think, aside from the car chase. But like them coming out front and be like, "Fuck you," and then throwing fucking fire into the apartment was amazing. And Hawkeye elbowing the window out and catching it and throwing it right back at them was fucking awesome. I was like, this is good. The reason that Clint is in New York with his family, like celebrating Christmas without his wife for some reason, isn't actually very explained and doesn't really make any sense. And he immediately sends his kids. He's like, it makes it seem like maybe they're not together anymore. Because like, I'm like, why isn't the wife there? Because I was genuinely worried they were going to push the show in the Kate Bishop Clint direction, and I was like, oh, this will be bad. Don't do that, kind of thing. And they didn't at all, of course. But like, it was just one of those things where I was like, why is he in New York? I don't.
That was a
why is he here with
bizarre
his kids and
thing
not
that his
wife?
kids
Like,
were there and got. Yeah, that was strange. Like, why wasn't just the whole family there? But
you guys want to talk about this little finale and then wrap this up?
yeah, costume design for a second. Is that really the best shirt for Kingpin to wear? Like a Hawaiian shirt?
That's a nod. That's
What
a
are we
nod to a
doing?
comic issue. It's a nod to something he wore in the comics once. I don't know why they felt the need to do that in this for whatever reason. But I mean, like it's straight out of he wore it once in a comic and like
Yeah, but can we just not do? Like, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's a good look for him.
Also the suit, like he looked good in the Netflix show. I mean, he's a big guy and he wore suits and stuff, and they bulk him up a little bit. But like in this, the suits just looked like he was swimming in the suit. And I'm like, what? It was like 3 times the size of the suits he wore in Netflix. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, it was not a good look.
And also, she shot him point blank with an arrow. I'm like,
well, he did have a bulletproof suit of the Netflix show that he had gliding.
Yeah, I know, but she shot him with an arrow. It went in, and he broke it off. Like,
I just think
that would. Even if it went in an inch, that would fucking hurt a normal.
Yeah, but he
you know
just
what I
came
mean?
off as super cartoonish in this show.
Yeah,
Like
which made
it
him
just
super
did not
cartoony.
have the same
Exactly.
gravity as in the Netflix show.
He got hit by a fucking car in the end.
This version of Kingpin is more powerful than the Netflix version.
Yeah, he does have power, right? Super, not super strength, but strong. Well, let's talk about it. Netflix, Vincent D'Onofrio, and Kingpin, and Hawkeye Kingpin. Who's higher on the Snyder Zeus scale? Like, who's closer to Snyder Zeus out of those?
I mean, Netflix version of Kingpin is just he's higher than the MCU version, even with his super strength in the MCU version.
Patrick, it was obviously a trick question. Neither registers on the Snyder Zeus scale. We're talking about a man chiseled from marble, just perfection incarnate.
Marvel. That is.
I'm with Joe in the logic that anyone would register on the scale, but
Hard disagree. But so what you're saying, all right. So what you guys are saying is
you
that
think a 1 is what?
Joe, you got.
Give us
you're
a sense of your scale, Al.
You're comparing a halogen light bulb to the sun. They're not the same. You can't even compare the two. They're not on the same scale.
Oh my gosh. Let me clarify something for you. A halogen light bulb is a whatever you want to call it, and a 1, and Snyder Zeus or the sun is a 10. That's a scale. And I can figure out where everyone is on that scale.
It's a scale of nonsense. It's not a true.
If you're a human being, you're on the scale. You can't
barely
registering.
You can't measure infinities, and these are infinities apart.
It's not infinity, Al. What's the point of the Snyder Zeus scale if we can't put anybody on it?
That is the point. Well, that is the point, but nobody fits on it.
All right, they're all less than 1.
Except for Jack Reacher.
So
Jack Reacher registers on the Snyder Zeus scale. I'm going to go on a limb.
What does he register? Give me like if Snyder Zeus is a 10. I love that we just call him Snyder Zeus, by the way. If Snyder Zeus is a 10 on the scale, where does Jack Reacher fall?
Jack Reacher's about a point 007.
What?
Yeah.
He's not even a 1?
No, too high a body fat percentage to be a 1.
You're out of your mind. That's what makes him a 1.
No, I don't. Anyway, but Reacher definitely registers.
He's not even 10%. If Snyder Zeus is 100%, you're telling me that Jack Reacher isn't even 10% of that.
Having said that, I do ironically recommend Reacher as a show to watch. It's a lot of fun if you don't take it seriously.
You know, I didn't even recognize that guy that plays Hawk and / Aquaman, but I wanna watch it now that I know it's him. I didn't know it was him before. I was like, whatever, Reacher.
So Joe, you just watch anything that actor's in? Why?
No, I just think he's a good actor. Yeah,
really?
He is. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, he doesn't register on the Marlon Brando scale of acting, I'll tell you that. You might be on. All right. We have one fan favorite segment left on this podcast, and that is, of course, do you pass the Bechdel test? The Bechdel test, the Bechdel test. Do you pass the Bechdel test? Let's find out. That's the jingle for the segment.
I thought it was like Bechdel test. This is the Bechdel test.
Bechdel test.
Yeah.
I think
the jingle.
That's the jingle. All right. So anyway, we're in the Bechdel test. This show's we were talking about it earlier. It's kind of not the slam dunk you thought it would be. So Kate has several discussions with her mom and with Florence Pugh, but like 80% of those convos are kind of about Hawkeye. So if you take like minute or 2 minute snippets of them, they do kind of pass the Bechdel test. But overall,
what about when Black Widow is talking to? I guess she's not Black Widow yet. What about when a Black Widow, not the Black Widow? I don't know. Whatever you call her.
You're talking about Florence. You can just call her Florence.
Yelena. Whenever Yelena is eating the mac and cheese and talking to Kate, They have
Yeah,
a pretty
most of
lengthy
that is
conversation
Hawkeye
not
related.
involving.
But most
Is
of that
it?
is like, where's Hawkeye? I need to kill him.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay. But there's
But
a
it
lot. But there's a
does.
lot of that conversation where they're just like, "I respect you. You look, yeah, you do a good
But
job. We
early
fought
in
the
the
other day.
show,
That's
I
crazy."
think like Kate and her mom do have a discussion about like, did you destroy your school bell? So I think they do have discussions
That
not
technically
about
counts.
Hawkeye. So I think it technically passes. But I just wanted to make the point that it's not the slam dunk you would think it would be with Kate Bishop in it.
It does pass the Mako Mori test, though, right?
How different?
I
How
mean,
different is
pretty
she
much
from the beginning of the show
she's
to the end?
experienced loss. She's kind of grown up quite a bit. Her mom's a criminal.
She has murdered people.
She grows as a character. I think she graduates from wanting to be a superhero to being a superhero.
And
That's
Yelena has
an
some
argument
growth
of
too,
itself.
Florence.
And
Yeah.
Echo sort of does as well.
For sure. Yeah, so there's a few female characters.
So they do pass Makamori test,
which
so
is
that
saying
passes.
something because I feel like that test is kind of harder sometimes.
I've mentioned in the beginning of this episode, by far my favorite thing about Hawkeye, Yelena in general, her whole conversation, like I'm obsessed with Florence Pugh right now. Her whole conversation with Kate Bishop, I love that she calls her Kate Bishop for whatever reason.
I think that's a nod to the comic book readers.
That might be true.
Because I call her Kate Bishop, and so does many other people that read comics call her Kate Bishop. And the reason we call her Kate Bishop is because they're both named Hawkeye, and they made that very specific point of not taking the title from him, but giving it to her also. So they're literally both Hawkeye. So when you say Hawkeye, it could mean either one, and it's confusing. And you just end up referring to her as Kate Bishop all the time. Because if I just said Kate, you'd be like, who? I'm like, Kate Bishop. And you're like, oh.
I don't know if we're on final takes here, but that's my final take. I fucking love the two of them. I loved everything about every interaction with them when they're on the elevator. I really hope we get more of it. I'm going to be disappointed if we don't. And I was here for all of the Yelena stuff.
Sorry, Patrick, you mentioned you've discovered other misogyny in film tests that we could try. Do you like the lamppost one?
The lamp test.
God damn it, Al.
Sexy
lamp.
Sexy lamp. But this passes the sexy lamp test because you could.
It's not just
a lot of these characters are not sexy lampposts. So that passes that one. Any other tests you want to go over?
Christmas Story with a sexy lamp. They're not just talking about any lamp on the street. Sexy lamp test, I think, is like if you can replace the female character with the lamp from Christmas Story. Like,
that's exactly.
But this passes,
which is a horrible failure of developing a female character.
No, but this passes that. They all have lines.
Yeah, this passes that.
All right, well, let's wrap it up. So, any other thoughts?
I think overall, I liked it. I agree with Patty. I was here for Kate Bishop and Yelena, who I guess I didn't know was going to be in the show until you start watching it. However, pleasantly surprised with Clint. So not just for Kate Bishop. I was kind of in for it. That episode where they're in the car chase scene, and he doesn't have his earpiece in, and he's like, "You should do this," and she's like, "I should do this," and she's like, "Holy shit, we're communicating!" And like that was like their back and forth was just as fun in a not as obvious way as Yelena and her. I mean, like her and Yelena were like right off the just instant chemistry. Like them, it was a little more subtle, but it was there, and I really enjoyed it. And the show was much better than I was expecting it to be. I think. I mean, like I had high hopes, but it didn't disappoint. I liked it a lot. It was a really good show. It's one of the better shows that Disney has made for the Marvel stuff so far, I think. We didn't really touch on the big finale and him being in a tree for some reason and not just climbing down.
But yeah, it was Christmas. Trees
and
fell.
That owl taking those guys away in a van. They're dead.
I don't have anything to add. I agree with everything you all said. Like I pretty much enjoyed it. The story was sort of non-existent, but it's an action thing, so that's fine. Yeah, Clint was marginally interesting compared to the other Avengers movies. Kate's great. I don't have anything to add. Thanks for listening, and until next time.